lot shorter than these guys. Good evening. Hey, my name's Dannii Stars, and behalf of the Young Conservatives, once again, I just want to thank everyone so much for coming out tonight. We really appreciate every one of you for coming out. It does mean a lot to us. Nights like this don't happen if people aren't here to listen. So thank you again very much. Tonight, I just want to share with you a bit about my story and how and why I came to join this fight. So do you remember as a child in the schoolyard playground when someone would say something that another didn't like, the response would simply be, "It's a free country, I can say what I like." Wasn't it inspiring to see then the pride that we had in who we are as a nation that ran so deep as to even make it into the conversations of a schoolyard playground? I, for one, took great notice and made it an endeavour in life that since I was so blessed to live in such a great nation as ours, I would use that opportunity and become a voice for the truth of all things. Now, my first encounter with the Young Conservatives was at the beginning of this year. And just like some of you here tonight, I was not a politically minded person at all. But my pastor had been invited to speak, so I figured I'd just go along and hear what everyone had to say. I'll be honest with you, I spent most of the night in shock with what I was hearing. See, I never realised that there were so many people that seen things the way that I did, and not only that, were actively doing something about it. I was inspired. So, at the end of the night, I approached one of our team members and asked how I could learn more. He told me about a meeting on the following Monday night, so I went along, and much to my surprise, I was greeted with a "Welcome to our newest team member." I looked around and realised everyone was staring at me, and it was at that moment that I realised, well, this is who I am now. So I put myself forward to assist where I could in our Cairns Forum where we hosted Lauren Southern. And whilst I was still learning more and more each day, I was asked if I would like to write a blog. I straight away said yes, as the current debate on the abortion issue was something that I felt so strongly for. But boy, oh boy, I had no idea what I was signing myself up for. My 7-minute video on abortion literally went viral. And how viral? Well, in just 1 week, it received over 100,000 views. Turns out that calling science for what it is offensive hate speech. And in turn, taunting comments of wishing for the person's death, for them to be raped, offering to commit the murder, and even attempting to try and find the person's address to do so, are all a fully justified response. Interestingly enough too, most of all of these comments were from women. It was heartbreaking. Since when was advocating for the life of an unborn child such a horrible thing? And why is science hate speech but death threats not? No wonder people are so afraid to speak out. No wonder the truth is oppressed and the silent majority remain silent. But it was at that moment that I realised I had a decision to make. Do I fold to the crowd, to the threats, to the hate, to the many screeching voices of my peers, to the shame? Do I let them win and be silent? Or do I make a stand? Do I fight back and stand for what I know and believe with everything in me is the truth? Personally, it was probably one of the easiest decisions I have ever made. And the next week, we released my second video on feminism, where I stood tall and made it clear that I would not be silenced. Thank you. Now, amidst this process, the Young Conservatives had been contacted by the SBS show Go Back Live, where 8 people with strong opinions would be sent off to live a refugee experience and their thoughts would be broadcasted on the show. Now, luckily enough, I was chosen to be one of the participants for their 2018 show. Now, following that journey, I was asked by my team to share with you all my experiences and personal perspective of what I had learned. And it was up until last night that I had everything written and ready to go. But I felt the need to check over my contract once more. It was then and there that my heart sank. I freaked out and I panicked. Everything that I stand for, I was suddenly a victim to. It felt as though the straps of a muzzle had been tightened across my mouth as I realised I have tried to be silenced. Ironic though, really, isn't it? The fact that media ensured that all bases were covered before the event even began to make sure that only one side of the story was heard. See, it's common knowledge that all mainstream and government-owned media stifle the conservative opinion every day. We know media is not what we see. Media is full of lies, all staged out to paint a picture of a one-sided argument. We hear what they want to say, but never the full story in detail. See, as I look back on my journey that began long ago in a schoolyard playground, I ponder as to how things have changed merely a decade and a half later, where the truth is silenced and left-wing agenda is driven by sheer anger and violence. I can only imagine the schoolyard response now being, "That offends me," with the child being encouraged to run in tears and become oppressed by the blanket of victimhood, while the innocently spoken mind is punished and told to think within the same box as everyone else. Tell me, is this the future that you really want? Is this a world that you want your children to be brought up in? Because you can stop this, and you can make a change. I've heard it said before that a modern-day society cannot be creative and continue to develop unless its members are capable of thinking freely and researching independently. These are the two factors that allow humans to advance and progress, not censorship and hate speech laws. Now, we, as the leaders of our next generation, must come together and ensure that our children grow up with the same freedom and pride in who we are as a nation that we were all so blessed with. And here are just 5 simple and practical ways that you can start. 1. Subscribe to a conservative political party to receive up-to-date emails and become a member of a conservative political party. And if it's not obvious, more specifically, thank you, Simon. 2, donate money. Ensure that your politicians that you choose to represent you are funded so that nights like tonight can continue to happen. 3, get involved with elections. Help out with campaigning, hand out how to vote cards on election day. 4, follow conservative groups on Facebook. Make public comments on social media or written publications standing up for your beliefs. Forget about the left-wing keyboard warriors. They can say what they want, but this is war on our freedom and our children's future. And it's only when you're silent that they have won. 5, support groups like the Young Conservatives. Follow what we're doing and get involved. A fight is always easier when you have an army standing behind you, and we want to recruit you. I cannot encourage you enough. Join the fight while you still can. Speak up, scream for action, and demand the future that you dream of. A future where the truth is not only heard, but acknowledged, and where our children are free to dream. But lastly, please help me with my dream, where the silent majority are no longer silent, but screaming loud and free to do so. Thank you.